Good morning again. I want to share with you just a couple things about what self-supporting work is before we start this morning. How many know about ASI? ASI is a lay organization within the Seventh-day Adventist Church that do projects all over the world. They've got people that need help, and they've got a lot of people that can help in that organization. I belong to that, and most of the work that I've done is done with the self-supporting work. We even have academies that are called self-supporting academies, and most of you don't know anything about them. The one up there in Canada, Fountain View Academy, we've all heard of how beautiful they sing. That's a self-supporting school. But they're not self by themselves. Everything they do is connected with the conference, but it's run by lay people and supported and paid for by lay people. So just keep that in mind as we talk this morning. My family and I, for the last couple of years, have been given a couple of mountains to climb. And we should have mountains to climb because we're no different than anybody else. But this time he's given us a mountain that is pretty tough to climb. But we're climbing it together as a family. And we know this, that if we can't get up that one special place, that we will have the Savior holding onto our hands. And he's climbing it before us, and we thank him for that. So we appreciate that as we start this morning. Most of you have an idea what I'm talking about. I'm going to share with you this morning from several countries that I've been in. People have asked me, when you go up there and tell stories, let's see some pictures, see some of it. We want to hear about it. We want to see it. So I'm going to take you to several countries this morning. And whether I get through all the ones that I have down there or not, I don't know, because we have some pretty good slides to show with you. I've had a lot more slides, but back 30 years ago when I started this, what we had? We had the carousels with the 35 millimeters, and I got hundreds of those. But how in the world do you get them off? It was hard enough for me to get some hard copy into the computer, and I finally had Costco help me with that, and that worked pretty good. So anyway, we do have some pictures we'll share with you. I'm going to take you to Bulgaria for just a minute. I do not have any pictures to show you from there, but I do have them available, but I didn't get them. And the reason I want to take you there is we got into Bulgaria, which was one of the toughest communist countries in the world during the Soviet regime. They're the ones, the Bulgarians are the ones that shot at the Pope that time, tried to kill the Pope. They were tough. They're a tough bunch. But we had churches over there. We had about 85 churches over there. When we went over to look at the churches to see what could... By the way, let me tell you how we got there. We were sitting in our hotel room working with the Russians. That's when the seminary was being built in Zalsky. And we were working with the Russians, and we had quite a few of them in the room with us. And after about 11 o'clock at night, everybody had left. But over in the corner in our motel room, Garwin, when I say ours, I'm talking about Garwin McNeilis, my best friend that I travel all over the world with. We saw these two gentlemen sitting with their hat in their hand, sitting in our room. They'd been there for about 4 hours. Never said a word. And we said, well, everybody's out. What can we do for you? One of them spoke pretty good English. They said, we're from Bulgaria. Come over to Macedonia and help us. They had nobody to help them in Bulgaria at all. They'd gone to the leadership and they said, you gotta get somebody that'll come over there. And they suggested seeing Garwin. Well, Garwin said, I've got so many irons in the fire right now, I don't know what I can do. But Bob Falkenberg was elected president that year. And he and Garwin and I were really good friends. And he called Garwin and said, Garwin, I'm going to Eastern Europe. Would you go with me? Garwin said, I can't. My business is booming. I got to stay home. I can't go. And he kept saying, I need you. Well, he said, where are you going to go? Garwin said to him. He said, I'm going to go to this place and that place, and I'm going to go to Bulgaria. Garwin said, I'll go. And when we got over there, we found they had about 85 churches in very, very bad disrepair. We fixed all those churches, and then they bought a bunch of homes, 35 or 40 homes, took the interior walls out and made home churches. So our work started going forward real fast. The two gentlemen that were sitting there, one was a guy by the name of Tasmania, the other one was Nicole. Tasmania was was the president of all that area in Bulgaria, and Nicole was their treasurer. And we got so well acquainted with those gentlemen. Anyway, that's how we got to Bulgaria. And the one thing, there's a lot of stories I could tell you, but I'm not going to because I don't even have pictures. But there's one story I want to share with you. When we got through working over there, somebody had mentioned the gypsies. And they said in Sofia, Bulgaria, there's an area that is known as Gypsy Land. And you just don't go down there because they're very slick and they love to get a joy out of pickpocketing you. And they take anything they can get. And that was their reputation. But we said, we need to go over there and see if we can't have a series of meetings and see if they are interested in hearing about Christ. Oh, no, the leadership said, no, you don't want to go in there, just leave them alone. But we did. We went in, we had a series of meetings. I can't get involved in it because it's too long a story. But they end up winning about close to 100 gypsies. And when they became Christians and learned about Christ, you never saw a more honest, wonderful group of people in your life. They built a church over there, and you probably read about it in the review some 20 years ago. They built a church over there, and it was a wonderful church. Had a baptistry right up in the front. We came over for the second series of meetings, and they had a baptism of about maybe another 30 or 40 people. And they don't sit down there when they have the baptism. They get up front, and they sit everybody that can sit around that baptistry. And I remember one distinct baptism was an old man, probably in his, I say old man, look at me. Probably, let me say he was in his 90s. He probably was about my age. But he was a rickety old man that had a tough life. And when he came out of that baptistry, he had tears streaming down his face. And he had the biggest smile on his face you ever seen. I can't forget that gentleman. That's how the work got going over there in Bulgaria. We did quite a bit of it there. But now I want to take you somewhere else. I want to take you to Bangladesh. Bangladesh is one of my favorite places to work. It was probably one of the dangerous places. It was during the Taliban time, and they were coming out of Pakistan and down through Bangladesh, and they told us sometimes to keep our heads down as we went through these towns. Don't look anybody right in the eye. White Americans were not liked too well, but we had several schools that were in tremendous disrepair. I've got one slide that I'm going to show, but not right now, in just a minute, of what one of our schools looked like before, and then I'm going to show you a lot of the after ones, because when my friend Garwin takes a look at a project, he's got a knack about him that's different than anything I have. I can't see it, but he can look at a project and know exactly what it's going to look like when he's done. And he lines it out, and if they put one building in the wrong place, he will actually tear the building down and rebuild it. We're belonged. Because they want to change it. They think they know better. But after working with Garwin as long as I have, I know when he said something should be done. In fact, he's a crotchety old guy. He's a guy that it's my way or the highway type thing. In fact, one time he told me, Paulson, you're my best friend. I said, yeah, don't kid me, sucker. I'm your only friend. But he gets things done. And when he's done, sometimes he has the most wonderful, sympathetic personality you ever seen once he's through the project. And we got along good to begin with. One time, let me tell you one real quick story about Garwin and I. We traveled together for 35 or 40 years. And only once did we ever get into a big fight. I mean, we got into he was wrong. I keep telling him, even today I tell him he was wrong. I had projectors that I was taking over there to do my week of prayers. I did a lot of week of prayers in Bangladesh, and I'm going to show you a picture of our last baptismal class after we get through here. But we were ready to go up to Bangladesh, but if you get the picture, he flies from Minneapolis, I fly from Seattle, and we leave about the same time, and we get into Tokyo almost the same time. I remember how I thought it was 9 hours, but somebody said it's 17 hours. But then we got on a plane immediately and flew into Bangkok, and immediately we got on a plane and flew to Dhaka, which is over in Bangladesh. And then we got on one of our Toyota pickups with 2 seats in it and drove 9 hours out to the school before we had any sleep. So we were both a little crotchety. But we had a huge load of stuff, and he said, most of this has to go in the pickup. I said, Garwin, I got this one projector here that has to go up front, and my computer. Other than that, I don't care what you put back there. He said, okay, we'll do that. But when it got down ready to put stuff away, he said, that's got to go in the back. And I said, Garwin, that's my projector. If that thing goes out on me, we have nothing to show. I mean, I've got a week of prayer that's all in my computer on a PowerPoint, and I need that projector. And we got to arguing back and forth, and he said, oh, all right, then I'll put my stuff in the trunk, and yours can go up front. And we were going back and forth, and I don't remember where my stuff went or his, but we were yipping at each other for 9 hours. We got into the room. We have our own guest rooms over there that are one of the first things that Garwin's built is a guest room, so we have a place to stay. And he said, you're still mad, aren't you? I said, well, you were so wrong about that. I'd ask you ahead of time if I could. And then he said something back, and he said, wait a minute, hold it. He said, you know what we need to do? We need to get down on our knees and pray. Amen. He said that one of these old warriors won't say something that we'll regret. And we did that. Not another crossword ever went between us. There's power in prayer. Amen. Tremendous power in prayer. We're all human. We do stupid things sometimes, but there's tremendous power in prayer. Let's show you. I don't know how much time I got. What time is this supposed to be? What's that? No, I want to know what time. From 11:30, 12, something like that. Anyway, let's show you some pictures. Let's go to the first picture there. We just keep it right on there for a while. That's what the school in Manasapara, Bangladesh, looked like. It's a big school that's been there for 60 years. And that's the best of it when we moved in. One at Sam's, the other school. By the way, this school here is 11 miles away from the nearest road. And everything that was built there was 3-story. When we got through, we were about 3-story high girls' dormitories, boys' dormitories, kitchens, orphanages. Everything is completed, perfect, beautiful. You'll see some pictures in a minute. Every bit of the rebar, every bit of the concrete, everything in the cement, everything had to be brought in on a hand-pushed rickshaw, 11 miles from the river. We always flew in with a helicopter because we didn't want to figure out how we were going to get that last 11 miles. It's right on the. Do you know about anything about how many know about India, where it comes up like this and then goes around the top, and this little piece around the top was right south of. I think Afghanistan's up there and Pakistan, they're all right in that area above them. And that area is not controlled by the Indian government at all. That's where these two missionaries and a businessman got kidnapped. And the businessman tried to get away and they shot him dead. What they want is a ransom. And that's within an eighth of a mile of that border, that school. And they told us, even when we come in with a helicopter, we cannot go out over top of India. Whenever we get there, and I'll show you one picture that happened to show them there, we have about 8 guards with rifles that stay with us the whole time we're there from the Bangladeshi government, because they know that that's not a good area. But the school's there. It's been there for years. We have 1,200 students in there now. It's amazing school. So we had to get it finished and get it taken care of. And it's a good school. There's a text that down at Sam's, the other one, which I'm going to show you pictures of both of them. Garwin was worried about the teachers because they were living in the worst little huts that you ever saw with thatch roof, and he knew there was bugs and animals in there, and he looked inside. They were just terrible, but it was their home. And he challenged them. We were coming back in 1 month. And he said, before we come back, you have to have all those things tore down and cleared out of there. Well, that's their home. They had to have faith to believe that he's coming back and building them new faculty homes. And when we got there, it was completely cleared out. But there's a text I was reading. I'm reading Carol's Bible, which I enjoy so much, to see what she underlined and thoughts she written in here. And I'm in Jeremiah right now, and I prayed to the Lord Thursday. I said, Lord, give me something that I can use. And you remember Jeremiah didn't want any part of what the Lord wanted him to do. And there was a piece in here, one text. I'm going to read you a couple others because I worried about it too, and I got to put on these week of prayers, and I got to do it through a translator and do it right and let them learn about Christ. But here's what the Lord said to Jeremiah. Now the Lord said to me, do not say I'm only a child. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them. You know, all the trips that I've taken in the world, 70 countries or more, I've never been afraid of anything. I don't know why, because I've been in areas that I should have been. But here he says, do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you, declared the Lord. Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, now I have put my words in your mouth. See, today I point you over. Listen, this is for Garwin, because these people had to believe that he would be back to build them houses. It says, see, today I appoint you over nations and kingdoms to uproot and tear down, and then to destroy and overthrow, but then to build and to plant. When he got through with any school, like we're going to show you here, he always planted about 300 trees in that property. Every one of them a fruit-bearing tree. They didn't know anything about that. Now they have more fruit, more coconuts, more bananas than they can use. They sell them to the community. So he tears down things but rebuilds it, and he did the same thing with the houses. That text is a wonderful text, and I appreciate it. Jeremiah 1, by the way. Okay, let's show them a couple of pictures of Bangladesh. Now this is, these are not in order that they should be. I'm really worried about getting these together, and Costco helped us. But this is, I know these schools well. That right behind is the administration building, and this is how his campuses all look like. They've got sidewalks that are in circles, and they always put these circular areas on the campus so the kids can sit right along those edges and visit and talk. Those are coconut trees behind, and on this campus we made a real mistake. We planted the coconuts too close to the sidewalks, because once they grew, they start dropping on the sidewalks, and of course that's where the kids walk. Let's show another one. Just go right ahead. We got quite a few of these. Oh, I forgot. You gave me something up here to change this thing, didn't you? I got a thing in my pocket. I asked for it, and then I forgot what I did with it. I don't know where it is. Hey, bear with me. You know, guy gets old. I don't know what I've done with that. You'll have to change them for me. Yeah, these are the kids when we came. They always line up like that. Always line right up and wait for us. And they sing songs, and it's just beautiful. Did I leave that out there? You took it away from me. Thank you. This is another time when we first got there, the kids were bringing flowers and stuff down to us. It's just beautiful. And notice this campus. You remember that first picture I showed you? That's what both of the campuses look like. In fact, yeah, look at those coconut palms. We planted too many of them and too close to the sidewalks. But that campus is just absolutely beautiful. And he always leaves money enough to keep the building painted at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. They paint this thing, always the same color, white with a green trim. And he insists on that thing being painted and the yards being kept up perfect. And they do it. Now here's a unique thing. You remember it said we're going to plant and grow? They never had a garden of any kind. These campuses are about, I'm trying to figure it out, probably 12 to 15 acres. And they put a 12-foot high fence all the way around with barbed wire and then the top parts. And they had no garden. But right in the middle of our campus, we built this garden. And they were able to raise enough vegetables for all the food the kids could eat. And they sold product. Garwin's trying to make these schools self-supporting because he's 80 years old and I'm 82. And when we're gone, there's really nobody that'll pick up the ball and run with it. So he's trying to make them self-supporting, and this is a beautiful garden that we have there. We had a Muslim gardener that was such a precious man. He worked day and night. And this is looking from the girls' dorm down on the campus, that little soccer area there. And that school in the background is their church school. And that was built by Maranatha. Maranatha has that beautiful building where they have the interior, where they have a place where probably 800 or 900 kids can sit down or play games. And then on both sides, they have the classrooms. Beautiful school that really does the job around the world. Just some of the kids. See those sidewalks? That's not just for us. That's like that all the time. They clean it, they edge it, and they mow the lawn. Now, this is my friend Garwin. Now, I didn't know I had these in here. Let me share with you what this is all about. Years ago, when I went to India, I had a series of sermons that I put together for India. And the Lord blessed in such a way that they were so simple and so easy to understand that ASI built a series of DVDs, and we'd go around the world and we trained all the pastors. We had every pastor from Bangladesh there that week, and I taught the class how to use those DVDs, and then when they're done, they got a complete set of the DVDs plus a DVD player. And these gentlemen were just delighted. That's the DVD players there. We'll run through that quickly. There's some of the pastors that are getting ready to go home. And there's a whole group of them. Now, this is up on that other campus, Manasapara. That's the one that you saw with a big ditch with all the mud and the what it looked like. This is from a distance, but that's what the school looks like from a distance now. And of course, there they did the same thing. They gather around and they come to greet us, and so they're so happy that we're coming over. See, there's another one of the circular areas. Every campus he builds has one of those or two of them. That is, that's that was where we stayed. That's the visitors' homes. Anybody that comes over there can stay in one of those. There's 2 apartments there and 2 on the other side. They were very nice to have. Just some of the kids, campus, wonderful palm trees, coconut palms, and they have bananas. Every 3 years they have to change their banana plantation, so the coconuts, of course, go on forever. And the gardens, they have to do it. There's the kids. They're just coming in from one of the meetings on the all-purpose building that we build. Will seat up to 1,200, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous campus. That's the principal's home. Just had built that a short time before and put the shrubs in, and everything grows fast over there. Hard for me to tell which one that is, but it's one of the buildings. There's a big pond on the left-hand side here, and that's where similar to where you saw that first picture. This is the faculty homes that they built. The same ones they built at Sam's that I told you they had to tear down their homes. These are the faculty homes, and they probably got 20 of those that they built. A really solid, nice, wonderful homes for the faculty. That's looking down through into that pond. I almost fell in that pond one time. I thought I was smart and was riding a 3-wheel bicycle and run it off the sidewalk and tipped over, rolled down the hill. I was able to grab a tree as I was going. Now, if I fell over like that, I'd be drowned before they got me out. That's where the guys would go down and actually wash their clothes. That's the boys' dormitory. The boys' dormitory is across from all the other campus. Beautiful dormitory, and it has a multi-purpose area right in the center for them to play games and do things they want. And then the dormitories are on both sides. Just a wonderful, wonderful campus. Isn't that neat? They take those off. They will not go inside with their flip-flops on, and they all put them in order every single day. They go just like that, and everybody knows where they are when they come and get them. Now, this here I wanted to share with you. This is one of the most important things that we do in these schools. How many know about the English school system? The English school system is very difficult. And once they get to be the 10th grade, that's the big year. They've got to pass their exams that are tough as can be. The Adventists cannot take them They almost put them in jail because they won't take on Sabbath, so they give them another day, but they put them away and they're away from everybody, and then the tests are just absolutely tough, really tough to take. So what we've done, we've set up vocational schools in every one of these campuses where people learn to either be tailors or seamstress or small engine repair, and the other one is carpentry. And this is one of the graduating classes, and I can't read that, but I think it's probably the seamstress. But they're getting the diplomas there, and I think that it says on the bottom, the tailoring class. And they were getting their diplomas. They're just so tickled when they graduate like that, when they get their diplomas. But they also, the tailoring class gets several bolts of material. They get a sewing machine and other things that they need to start their own business in any town. And the same thing with the sewing class. The small engine repair people, they get a box of tools and everything they need to start a little business if they want to. And it's just a tremendous program that they've instigated. Grade school, that's a grade school, beautiful grade school, right on the same campus, wonderful. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been told that you're going to have a sermon in a church like this within 15 minutes of when you got to have it? My friend Garwin loves to pull tricks on me. He will not speak anywhere. He does now some, but when he and I got together, he couldn't get up front and say hi. And he's learned well. In fact, he's had very good presentations. But his greatest trick he pulls on me is to tell me, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, you got church today." Sometimes he will tell me that just as we're getting up. But the last church service I had here at Manasapara, I was walking up on the platform with about 10 or 12 Bangladeshi guys, and I was glad they were there. Because Garwin turned around and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, you're having a sermon this morning." On my way on the platform, and normally in my Bible I have 2 or 3 sets of notes. One of them is this, and you can write this down because you can do the same thing. To stay faithful to the Lord, there's 3 things you have to do: study, pray, and share. And I had that little note in my Bible, and I can make a sermon out of that. My wife said I can make a sermon out of anything. But when he told me that, I didn't have anything in my Bible. And I'm glad the Bangladeshi people were there because they took 45 minutes before they got through talking. And I got on the platform and I had a good friend by me, and I didn't know what I was going to speak on. But then all of a sudden something told me, speak on saying goodbye, because this was the last time we were going to be there. The very last time. Speak on saying farewell. And so I went back and got Bible characters that had to say goodbye. Abraham went off into a country. He didn't know where he was going. He had to say goodbye. And Joseph. And I picked out 5 or 6 of them. And then I came down to Christ, where Christ said that he said goodbye in heaven. When he came down here, he had to say goodbye. Then he had to say goodbye again to his disciples. But his great promise was, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go, I will come again. That was my sermon for the morning. And I say praise the Lord because I had no idea what I was going to speak on. But that's Garwin. That's my friend Garwin. He loves to put me in a bind and see how I get out of it. Let me go a few more pictures here because I want to show you. We bought 30 acres of land outside there and put it in a rice field because rice is one of their staples, and that was a godsend. Working real nice for them. That's again the principal's house. Now this is the last picture from Bangladesh. I want you to look at that, and I can't see it too clear. Hope it's clear up here. That's our last baptismal class there. What I used for Week of Prayer presentations was Carol wrote 2 books. I call them 2 books. She took every description of Christ from Desire of Ages and put it on the handwritten pages. She had 18 pages of that. And I took those statements that she had, put them with graphics, and that's what I taught the kids in Bangladesh. She did the same thing with Steps to Christ. And to be honest with you, I didn't put them together. She did, and I had graphics. Don Gray gave me all of his graphics. But it's the greatest presentation you could possibly have on it for a week of prayer. All out of Desire of Ages, all out of Steps to Christ. And this is our last baptismal class. Every time we had one, I probably had 5 or 6 of them here at that school, we'd have 180, 100, 150 baptisms. This was our largest baptism we had. But if you look on right in this corner, and I'm not sure we got a pointer here or not. Yeah, this gentleman right there, you see him? That guy right there? His name is Na, N-A. Am I pronouncing it right? He is the second in command at the General Conference right now. He may be our next General Conference president. But he was from the Philippines, and he heard something was going on up in Bangladesh. So he came up for the week. And he told me, he said, Bob, I want to tell you something. I never knew we had a school like this in our whole division or in the world. He said, this is the best I've ever seen. And he asked me, will you introduce me to one of your favorite people here? And I said, I sure will. There was a little girl that had never been to buy anything in her life in a store. And every time I went over there, I'd have the girls' dean get 10 or 12 girls, the worst ones, the poorest ones. And then a boys' dean get 10 or 12 boys, and we go to town, and I'd let them buy anything they wanted. Because they didn't have personal items, soap, anything. And this little gal was just so delighted about that. And she came up to me this last baptism, and she grabbed me by the arm, and she said, she couldn't speak English, but she said, I be baptized. Well, one thing we make them do is go home and get permission from their parents. If they don't get permission, it's pretty tough. If we baptize them, we could get ourselves in a heap of trouble. But she couldn't get permission because her dad, she told her dad, and he said, if you get baptized, you can never come home again. But she said, I'm going to be baptized. I introduced him to Dr. Nye, and he was just delighted. Okay, let's go real quickly, and this is important because you guys had a part in this. Go to the seminary in Zowski. I'll flip that in a minute. I'm not going to talk about the seminary. You know about it. My good friend Michael Kulikoff wrote this book, and I had that in my house for years and never read it. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks, or maybe 4 weeks ago, I read this. My friend Bill Day is down here, and he saw that, and he took it home and read it, and he said, man, I can't believe what that book tells you. You can read it in 2 days. But he went down to call it Pacific Press, and I think he bought 4 or 5 of them to give them to friends. So if you ever get a chance to read this, God's Soviet Miracle, read it. Because it's a story about how we got the land to build a seminary. And it's unbelievable. Because it was during communist times, and you couldn't get anything for a Christian church. But God performed miracles. Well, when, you know, our pastor, Larry Zowski, we sent him over to Zowski, and there was a little town of Seprahov, 40 miles from there, that he held a series of meetings. And in that series of meetings, we baptized, I think, around 150, 200 people. But he got over there, and he was 7 weeks over there all by himself. He's the only one that actually, I think he's the only one that had a series of meetings all by himself. I had a little letter I wanted to read you, and I don't even see it up here now. It's on the floor. If you see it, grab it from me. Anyway, I want to read this to you because this is part of belongs to you. When he got through, we had to have a place for those people to worship, and so we bought a piece of land and was going to build a new church. But the Lord saw a better plan. The reason for I say that is Dan Matthews from I think it is written anyway, Lifestyle Magazine, had a church that he needed built. So Maranatha was going to come over and build both of them. Ours first and then his. Inflation went up so fast that Dan ended up paying $1 million for his church to be built. Same church we were going to have built. As we were getting ready to put the forms in to pour the concrete, the city came out and said, no, we've taken this away from you. The Orthodox Church, the Russian Orthodox Church, does not want a Seventh-day Adventist church built in our town. So I've a good friend, Peter Kulik, he said, I'll find something. And he found a building that hadn't been used for 8 years, an old theater building, and it was a mess. They'd used it for an outside toilet. It was a mess, but it was solid as a rock, big brick walls. And he called me and he said, if we got to buy this, we can get it for $45,000. Well, we ended up having about $110,000 when we got through raising the money. We did that mostly on one weekend. And the city of Auburn City Church helped us, gave us $25,000 toward that. Every year they give something for a mission project. And North Hill, new church up there, helped us with it. But we were able to, let me read the letter and I'll show you the complications that I wrote to Mike Ryan. I said, Mike's a dear friend of mine. He was at the General Conference. Thanks for agreeing to help us get the funds. To get the funds over there and get the bills paid is like pulling hen's teeth. You just can't get it done. And I said, thanks for agreeing to help us get these funds to the Separov Church remodeling project in Russia. The Puyallup Seventh-day Adventist Church sponsored their pastor to go to Separov in October, how long ago? 1992. For 7-week series. I believe that's the only time a series of meetings was held in Russia by one pastor all by himself. We started a church of about 100 members. We raised about $80,000 in 1 week at Puyallup, Auburn, and North Hill churches to build a church in Separov. The land we had was taken away from us because of the interference by the Russian Orthodox Church. God had other plans, for a building was found and purchased for approximately $45,000 and paid for by Puyallup. Now we have about $50,000 to help get this a good building to worship in. We will send these funds as the renovation continues. The problem was, if you sent the money ahead of time, you'd never know where it went. It would not get used for the proper purpose. That was the way it was in communist Russia, within the church and outside the church. We will send the funds as the renovation continues. If the here, I like this. I didn't know I wrote this in there. I'm pushing for a little more money. If the GC or Global Missions has any funds to help, they would be appreciated. We didn't get any, by the way. Because the total cost of renovation of this building is estimated by Don Kirkman to be $80,000 to $100,000. The $50,000 we have now is sufficient to get the church portion finished and possibly one wing of the building, but not the entire building. Now it would cost you, to do what we did on that building, it would cost you probably, I would think probably somewhere in $1 million. It's amazing what was done. During the process of this, after we got the building, some of you know this, that they weren't doing anything. The church had not taken possession of it. They hadn't cleaned it up. They hadn't put a fence around it. And the city said, if you don't do something with the building, we're going to take it away from you. So Garwin and I made a special trip over there and met with the brethren and encouraged them to get something done to make sure they take possession of that building and get it done right. And they did. From that point on, they went forward and did it. I wrote below there, the enclosed $10,000 is for doors and windows and whatever is needed for the first phase of renovation of Separov Church. Please transfer funds immediately to the Euro-Asian Division Separov dollar account. Thanks to Mike Ryan and Elder Wilson. He was the head of the entire division over there, Ted Wilson. And he actually ended up paying for the bill. We sent him the money, and he paid the bills. Because if we sent them to the church, they would disappear some way or another. So we went ahead and got that built. Now I want to show you what the church looked like. That's the building right there. One end of the building had upstairs and downstairs offices, and that we were just roped off. We weren't going to do anything with it. I offered it to the conference because they were looking for a conference office. And I told them they could repair the downstairs and use it for a conference or have it for a conference office. They didn't think it was good enough for them. This is not turning, gentlemen. Oh, there we go. This is part of the building, what it looked like when we grabbed it. Although this was a little after we'd done some cleaning up because you notice it's got new windows in. That was the first thing, new windows and new doors. That's the front entrance. That's the front entrance there before we put the grate on it there. And you know, this is right across the street, get this, from the headquarters of the Russian Orthodox Church, right in town. I said, folks, you're going to have to do something. When you start building on this, you go right across the street, introduce yourself, and you say to those people, if you got anything that needs done, like painting doors or painting windows or anything like that, we would like to help you do that. And we did. We went over there and painted some windows and doors. Never heard a thing from the Russian Orthodox Church. They were just so happy that we were their neighbors. And they're the ones that wouldn't let us build the church, which that was a God thing. There's a prayer band meeting for prayer of the people that Larry taught the message and baptized. Kids, I love the kids. Now that's when they first started meeting inside the building. How clear is that? Oh, okay, you can see that good. That was before. Look at the benches. They built those benches. And for about 2 years, that's what they used. I preached in that church 3 times, once when they just barely moved in, and then in the middle, and then right at the end. And I'll show you a picture in a minute. There's another view of it. Look up above. You see that little area up above? That's where the projections were, because this was a theater. As they kept going and getting it built. Now that's the last picture. How's that? Is that beautiful?
Nice.
That's the interior of their church. Look up above where the projection booth was. They needed about $10,000 more to finish it when I was over there. And I said, you want me to help raise that money? Oh, no, we want to do this ourselves. They said, we're going to raise the money ourselves, and they finished it. And I'm just so proud of them. I took Carol over there at the 15th anniversary of the seminary. We were invited to be their guest, and Carol had never gone over there, so I took her. And that's the picture there. Right after I preached in that church, that was us in Red Square, and you see Carol right in the middle. And this not working. Is pointer working? Not. Anyway. The lady in the blue, that's Nancy Wilson. Her husband's the president of the General Conference right now. 2 on the left are so precious people you ever seen. That's Peter and Nerida Kuluk. They're the ones that did all the building over there for me. He's the one that found the building for us. He's the one that worked it through the Moscow, make sure that all the paperwork was in order. And he's the one that paid for it. We sent it. Peter is a godsend. He's built all over that area for the church. He keeps building. He's a successful contractor out of Australia. Dear people. Okay, that's about all I'm going to tell you about that. I do want to mention a little bit about one-day churches. How many know about one-day churches? Okay, how many? Let me say it this way. Be honest about it. How many don't know about one-day churches? Yeah, there's more that don't. It's one of the best kept secrets in the church. But about 10 or maybe 15 years ago, my friend Garwin realized how long it took to build a church in Africa. He had what they call roofs over Africa. I don't know if you've heard of that project. But what he'd do, he would put the roofs over there all by themselves, because these people sometimes had churches that were built with no windows in them, but they're built out of clay bricks. That they have all kinds of clay over there, and they make their own bricks. And they have the churches built, but they can't afford the roofs. It's always done with steel. They can't afford them. So he had this roofs over Africa, and he went over there and covered many partly built churches with roofs. And then he got to thinking about, why can't we build something that we can do it real quickly and have a complete church? And he came up with this one-day church plan. And what a plan it is. Once he got through the one-day churches, which they've actually done, without exaggerating, I would say they've done 5 to 6, 7, 8,000, maybe even 10,000 one-day churches. 32 of them will fit. They're made in Dodge Center, Minnesota, made in America. He puts them in containers and sends them over to wherever they have to be. It's usually a 3 to 4 month plan to get them over there. But he can put 32 of them in one container. I think 27 if they're full one-day schools. Let's go through and take a look at some of these. That's a one-day school right there. That's a picture of one that we had set up at ASI meeting. That's exactly what the school looks like inside. Some changes we made since. There's a blackboard. There's pictures on the wall. There's seating for 40 kids. Two in a steel bench. They make the school. They send the material, and you've got to put those school desks together. They're all steel, and there's 2 people that sit in each one of them. Now shows you a little view of what the school looks like when it's built. Gives you inside. I don't see what that last one is. Oh, that's inside of can't see it up there. That's inside there at ASI meeting when they're showing it. This is the miracle here. Let me tell you the story real quickly. You got to hear this one. We were building a school in Zambia. 2 of them, in fact, similar to this, but not quite as big. And we were just finishing up on one area, and I was over there doing my thing, and this precious lady came over, walked right in the campus there, and said, "Who's in charge here?" And when they say that, I don't say it's me. I pointed to Garwin, and I said, "He is." And she went over and said, "Are you in charge?" He said, "Yeah, I'm the one that helped build the school." She said, "I got something to show you." And he came over and told me, he said, I got to go over to Zambia with her. Or this is Zambia, go over to Zimbabwe, across the river, right by the falls there, go right over. He says, she claims she's got 20 acres of land that is the best piece of land to build a school on. She owns it, it's paid for, she got the title. And every single day for 20 years, that precious lady went out on that land and prayed that somebody would come and build him a school. And when Garwin came back, he said, we got to build it. I told her we'd have it done by next year. The next year we came back with Maranatha, and that was all put up in about 10 days, the whole thing. 1 day schools, put up. One crew can put one a day up, but we had a lot of crews. And they built that. That first set of buildings right in front is where my little office was, which you'll see me in my office here in a minute. That is the primary school. The one on the left, on my left, and it would be yours too, is the secondary school. And you see that building right in the middle? That was their church, and you never saw such a raggedy church in your life. Thatch roof covered with some type of other material. We tore that down, and then the big building between, on the right there, right on the right, that's their new church, will seat about 400 people. And it turned out to be one of the best churches, built out of the one-day material. All built out of the one-day material. The big building in the back, or the series of buildings in the back, is their high school. Elder Finley and his were over with us, and when we got through, we'd advertised it and set it up. He had a series of meetings. You see right in the middle where the tent is set up and that stuff. He had a series of meetings there for about a week, and had probably 30 or 40 of the local people accept Christ as their Savior and were baptized. So it was a nice week, and that's what our schools look like. Sometimes all over Africa. Sometimes there are that many. Sometimes there's just one school by itself out in some little local area that needs a school. One nice thing is we have a lot of colleges and universities throughout Africa. We've got all the teachers we need. Seventh-day Adventists trained teachers with certificates, and they're the ones that teach in these schools. Oh. Yeah. Dick Dirksen, my friend Dick Dirksen. He said, close your eyes and act like you're sleeping, and I did. Now, you won't believe that, but I wasn't sleeping. I was in charge of all the tools. I'll tell you what happens over there. We take these drills over $110 a piece, DeWalt's with the big batteries on them, 18 volts, 20, 21. And the people over there will steal anything they can. What they steal is the drills without the batteries and without anything to charge them with. But they steal them. And all the tools, when we're done with the project, half of our tools, they never come back. Garwin told me, he said, you got to be in charge of the tools and make sure that no tools are stolen. All we lost was one screwdriver. I had a list of everything. You know what I did? Whenever they came in for a tool, I had a pad in my hand, and I said, what's your name? And they'd give me some African name, which I couldn't even write or couldn't spell. But I said, make sure you bring that back. I got you down here. That afternoon, here's my tool here, Mario. I hadn't written anything down. But we got our tools back, and it worked. So we had a good time in Zambia and Zimbabwe. Wonderful. Love the people. They're so wonderful. It's amazing. Let's see what we got next here. That was the last of the pictures? Okay. That's good, because I got one little story I want to tell you in the end here. Let's see what time it is. Yep, it's time to close. We're going to forget Tanzania. I went over there just less than a year ago, and we got an avocado farm that we're building. We're going to have 300 acres of avocados pre-sold for Europe. You know, avocados is the passion fruit right now. Everybody wants avocados. They love them. And you can't get them too much here cheap anymore. I see Costco's got them $8.99 now for 5. Because California is running out of water, and Chile is not growing as many. So all these avocados we're growing, and they're the big ones. They do have some Haas's, but they're the big ones. And they're all pre-sold, and we're setting. We've got a dam built that has more water than we'll ever need. And we got a Israeli company that came over, and they built irrigation system, state of the art. Very expensive, but Garwin wanted it done right. And what he's trying to accomplish is to get that school 3,000 acres in Tanzania at the 7,000 foot level with everything a school would want in it. It's got a nursing home, it's got a printing press, it's got a church school, it's got an academy. We're building new girls' dormitories, everything you need. But when we're gone, that will be the end of it. So he's trying to get these schools self-sustaining, and that's why the avocados. Because if they get it self-sustaining and they do the job, they're going to go forward. Got to tell a story about Garwin real quick in closing. These trips we took, as I mentioned, they're long. And we used to take them every month almost. One time Garwin was really dead, bushed. And he came in, we got in there where we were staying, and he sat down, he said, I'm tired out. He said, this trip is really the problem. He said, these long trips are just killing me. And I said, Garwin, let me tell you a story. There was an old missionary that went to a South Sea island, and the head man on the South Sea island did not want him there. He hated him. But he worked anyway, and he started a school, and he was preaching the gospel. And he got a lot of trouble from the head man on the island. But after a few years, 3 years, this head man on the island knew that this missionary was there for a good reason. And they became the very best of friends. The old missionary did his thing for 10 years. His 11th year, he was getting ready to go home, older, never going to come back again. He was a shell collector. He loved shells. But there was one shell that you couldn't get anywhere except on the other side of the island. And between where their schools and everything was and the other side of the island was the marshiest jungle you ever saw. You couldn't hardly get through it. All kinds of things in there, bugs and snakes and everything. And just as he was ready to leave, he's getting ready to leave, he was looking for his friend. And he looked all over, he couldn't find him. And he said, where's my friend at? He said, I'm getting ready to leave. And the day he was ready to leave, all of a sudden his friend came out of that jungle, all bed up with mosquito bites and bug bites. But in his hand, he had one of those shells. And the missionary said to him, oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. But he said, the journey over there was so tough, you shouldn't have gone. And the friend of his said, listen, my friend, the journey is part of the gift. And Garwin took that to heart, and I never seen him have tears run out of his eyes very often, but they did that time. So pray for the work around the world. There's many lay people that are doing things that we never hear of. Of course, the church is so involved in a lot of places. And just pray for the work. We know the Lord's coming. And thank you for praying for us. As we pray, we're going to have a blessing on the food that you'll be taking out here. And everybody let the guests go first. I'm a guest. Just kidding. Let's bow our heads. Father, what a joy it is to be about your business. And we don't have the ability to do what we do sometimes, but you always look after us. We thank you for that. We praise your name. You're a God that understands, a God of love. And the more we understand your love, the closer we can get to you. Thank you for Jesus. Thank you for the Holy Spirit. Thank you for your love. In Christ's name, amen.